You seem confident that the Zetas and the Dracons aren't going to succeed. How do you know this? I mean, you're expounding the thing like we're going to make it through this, and we're going to be exposed to these. But all these frequencies with HARP and the pulse that you're talking about, how are you sure that they're not going to put a block to this?
I'm modeling a posture that is essential that we take. Our thoughts are things we create with our thoughts. If you want to accomplish something, whether it's a little thing or a big thing, you simply don't allow yourself any other option. Because if you do, you'll find a way to make the other part come true. I have found to be an effective person in little things in life. If something needs to be done, I'm just not going to say, but what if? I don't allow myself. I could go on forever, terrorizing myself, looking at the odds of this succeeding with the odds that are stacked against us. And I could spend my time lowering my thought patterns and the vibration of my thoughts, which lowers my body and keeps my DNA suppressed, into worrying about, oh my God, how are we going to get through this? If you notice with any thought, listen just for a minute, if you notice with any thought or any word, they each have a vibration to them. Some thoughts vibrate higher, some vibrate lower. In the choices you make, in the words you use outside and to yourself, you are creating energy vibration patterns. If you fill your mind with ideas of fear, what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't work out good? What if it's scary? What if it's bad? You're creating lower vibrating thought patterns. Our success here depends on raising frequency, making our bodies, our minds, and our planet vibrate higher. If I were to go out there and say to people, look how bad it is, this is really scary, you know, the odds that we're going to survive this, not very good. You know, if I went out with that attitude, first of all, nobody would want to listen to it. If it's that bad, why bother knowing? If we can't fix it, don't bother telling me. Let me enjoy my ignorance of bliss, thank you. You know, if the Guardians didn't know, we stood a fighting chance here to really wake up and turn this potential negative into a great positive. They wouldn't be making the effort to give this information. If it was hopeless here or didn't look good, they wouldn't bother. They'd just let us go until it blew up in our faces.
Why do the Guardians let them go this far?
It's not their job to protect us from our own choices.
Free will. All right.
They'll intervene when they can, but just like you can't keep your child locked in the closet from now until eternity to keep it safe, you have to let it go out. If it makes mistakes, it falls on its face, you feel bad and you want to help, and you do help when you can. But you have to allow the children to develop independence and the ability to make choices that are effective. And that's why they allowed us to let it come this far.
I just had a question.
In your book, you say that the pyramid is the trademark of the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
Could you talk about that a little bit, and how does that relate to the Cydonia region on Mars?
Okay, well that was once an off-planet base when there were certain wars taking place here, and I believe it was the second seeding, which we're part of the third seeding of the race here. We were wiped out twice by the higher ones fighting over whether we were going to evolve or not. The pyramids were part of Anunnaki culture. That was part of the Syrian strains. The Syrian consciousness is very mathematically and geometrically oriented. Some groups of consciousness and their body forms that they make are more geared toward intuitive associative processes, where they have more fluid, like the Arcturian consciousness is much more fluid. It has its mathematical translation, but it's not into solid forms and objects. It's a different type of process. With the Anunnaki and the Syrian strains, and the Anunnaki come out of something called the Anahazi. Okay, they were the original light-bearing, founding Syrian race that the Syrian races came out of. The Anunnaki got mixed up with the Draconian matrix and lost part of their higher dimensional coding and became mutated genetically. But they still carry a lot of the attributes that were part of the Anahazi matrix. And the Anahazi were very much aware of the geometrical relationships within the morphogenetic field of things. Pyramids are created, and there's different forms that are created for different reasons. Pyramids are able to they work as scalar grids, as three-dimensional scalar grids. They will take energy and frequency coming in and bend it in certain ways. that allows amplification of certain patterns to occur. That's why you can like mummify things by sticking them in pyramid shapes and that kind of thing. So the Anunnaki used them as kind of like power generators within their cultural structures. So when they came to other planets, they would build them also there to use them for the same purposes. There were ways to key in the pyramids in Giza, for instance, into the old Atlantean crystal generators, the smaller ones that were still left and they're still here. There are ways to focus those energies and bring them in, and you could literally create things like laser energy, things that could direct the levitation of rocks, for instance. Like, that's how the pyramids were created. They weren't hauled up there, like they said. When they were repaired, they were the last time. But before that, they were created through this focus of energy. So the pyramids were a technology, just like we have technologies in, we have like little cameras in boxes and things. Well, they have big technologies and big pyramids that they use as interdimensional teleport stations and all sorts of things. I'm going to say a little bit more on the Anunnaki. The ones that built the pyramid for the Anunnaki of the Syrian Council, they were the Anunnaki that decided to honor their highest evolution and stick with the Anahazi of the Syrian Council. They were the good guys. All right. The ones that weren't the good guys were the Anunnaki Rebellion, which were the ones that sided with the Draconians and fought with the Syrian Council over whether this race was going to be allowed to evolve, and other races too. So the pyramids here were built by good guys, primarily. There's a couple that were put in there that weren't even from the Anunnaki. They were actually from other groups like the Kurundara. But basically, most of the primary ones that we've identified are under the Anunnaki influence. Is that the good Anunnaki influence? Does that round up the question for you?
Thank you.
Okay.
Two kind of specific Montauk-related questions. One, is something being planned for August of 2003? And secondly, are they trying to plan for potential time jumping of the entire planet, perhaps to move it out of the way of these positive incoming rays?
Hey, that's what we're doing. It's called the Grid Zone Project. That's what the book gets into. Have you read the book at all?
Part, but I'm wondering if the Montauk is working specifically against that.
Yeah, it's attempting to work against that. Montauk, from what I get, and I'm just getting the rundown on Montauk because I was not allowed to have a lot of it because it wasn't time to talk about it. And see, when they put it through a person, they give you information, it becomes available to anything that can read the matrix down here. So there's certain information they only give me when it's happening. When it's time now, it's time to know. With Montauk, there's a huge connection to something called parallel Earth. Here we go to sliders, as far as a point of reference. We're going to start right now, we have sliders. It's not a joke. Parallel Earth has fallen under the control of the Draco set of resistance. In a stellar activation cycle, the time vectors of Earth and parallel Earth progressively blend and become one. By 2012, they will be the same time vector. We will merge with our doubles. Montauk wants to make sure that happens because Montauk is being controlled by the overlords of the Draconian matrix, which are of the Black Sun genetic substrand matrices. What the Guardian races are trying to do, and what my work specifically is about, and the groups that we're forming, is to create a time vector severance between Earth and its parallel, plug in this time vector into another parallel that sidesteps that one, so that doesn't manifest here. Because if something isn't done, it's going to manifest here. And then we're going to be in trouble. Then it's going to be that what if. So we're here to make sure the what if doesn't happen. And we're doing heavy-duty time vector realignment mechanics. That's why we're going to Egypt first, then we're going to Peru. And we're going to a couple other places that are key places between the harmonics of this planet and Tara and harmonic 2. So we're doing grid mechanics. Montauk is totally tied up in it, and they're trying to use it to make sure that we don't get out of this time vector. They're trying to make sure that the Grid Zone project doesn't work. They're trying to make sure we stay under the control. So that's where Montauk fits in. There's a lot more detail to it that will be revealed as they go along, they told me. So.
I'm going to throw out two names, 2 words for you, just let you go with it.
Okay.
You decide how long you want to go. It's getting late, so it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm getting tired.
Yeah, but I'm going to throw out the Essenes and Melchizedek.
Oh, Melchizedek, I am one. Okay. I'll deal with that second.
Whichever one you want to do.
Now, the Essenes and Melchizedek actually go together because the Essenes were one of the many race strings, actually, that carried the full diamond sun code matrix, which is the full silicate matrix potential in their DNA. And they could activate that for ascension. They kept the codes alive on the planet in the race morphogenetic field. And they were traced way back through, they went back through Hebrew, through Egyptian, all the way back through the early root races. There were certain families that were the keepers of the codes. They would always carry, they were the blue flame Melchizedek families. And the Essenes were one manifestation of the blue flame Melchizedek families. So were certain ones within the Egyptian pharaonic lines. So were certain ones within ancient Atlantean cultures, and even before that. So the Essenes and Melchizedeks fit together. I'm real affectionate toward both of those names because the last time I was here in incarnation, I was an Essene, and my name was Miriam, and I was the half-sister of Jeshua 12, and he was a wonderful older brother to have, and he taught me many wonderful things. And we were Essenes, and we practiced the Essene. You know, it's funny, some of the Essene laws that's come down, if they only knew what went on in those temples, they would be really amazed. Because we were very aware of genetics, all right? We didn't need the term DNA to understand what happened when you combine certain morphogenetic fields with other morphogenetic fields. There were seedings done purposely to create family lines that would extend outward in time, and those family lines are still alive today. Some of us here may be a part of them. So there was a lot of neat things that went down in the Essenes that never got reported. But basically they dealt with protecting the knowledge of ascension and protecting the codes of ascension, which are the silicate matrix codes. And I'm considered, what I'm known by the Guardian Alliance is, my name is Onea Kananda Melchizedek. And that's because I always was, since the first time I entered incarnation into any of the systems down here. I was part of the Blue Flame Souls group, and I still am, once you are, you kind of always are. So there's a lot. I did a whole workshop on explaining Melchizedek and what that name really means. There's a lot of Melchizedeks popping up these days. Melchizedek priesthoods. I mean, the Mormons actually have their higher priesthood as the Melchizedek priesthood. And most of them are very, very patriarchal. Well, excuse me, I've been trained by the Melchizedek cloister. That's my family. That's the governing body and the cosmic level of all the little priesthoods that come down out of it. It's a family of consciousness. And in the cloister, which encompasses the rest of the other family lines, it is not patriarchal. The teachings of ascension are not patriarchal. That's a twist that they put on from the higher universes. It was meant to be equalist. It was meant to be egalitarian. And it's about time the feminine voices started standing up and say, excuse me, we don't buy this stuff anymore. You know who gave us the male God concept as a physical being outside of ourselves? It was part Anunnaki, part Nephilim. All those who wanted us to think God was outside of ourselves, not inside of ourselves. So when we get into Melchizedek, we get into the very core of what's been happening here, not many other levels with ourselves. That's as far as I'm going to go with Melchizedek here. I could go for days on that one.
No, you did fine. Thank you.